The recent announcements of PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and also the RTX 3000 having a messy launch have caused all sorts of different weird behavior, especially in the used gaming PC market. And today, we're gonna go out and get a couple of deals, but one really important thing on my mind is, what is the future of used gaming PCs? So this is one thing that I picked up on the road yesterday. It was 45 Aussie dollars. This is a 5870. And you're probably thinking that's too much for a 5870. And I know it definitely is. But the reason I got this, because it was just in such good condition for a card that's 11 years old, I believe. I think this came out in 2009, if I remember correctly. But this has got the Arctic Accelero cooler on it. And this looks like it's very similar to the Extreme 3. And the Extreme 3 does a really good job of cooling down graphics cards. So I was surprised they made a custom model for this card with the 5870 sticker on it. And one thing I'm going to try and do, I don't think it'll actually work, but I'd love to be able to put this cooler on this card right here. But if we look at the back of the cooler and the mounting spots, they are completely different. So if I can make some sort of mod work where I can get this mounted to this, then I would love to check out a cooler that's over a decade old on the latest and greatest, just to see how far GPU cooling has come or how far it hasn't come. We are now here at the next day, and I went to Brisbane, which is about an hour drive from where I am, for my sister's birthday. She had a really cool birthday going on, and I always get value out of my trips, so to speak. So there was a person who was having some problems with their PC that I sold. I just sold them like a basic low-end entry-level PC. And instead of going there and fixing it all up and spending maybe potentially hours at their place, I just offered to replace their PC with a slightly better PC, and they were just like over the moon. And so that's one method of, I guess, service that you can do if you're flipping PCs. Because to be honest, I would say 1 in every 20 PCs or so will just have weird problems, and you stress test them, they leave your studio absolutely fine, but for whatever reason, maybe the person's going 4-wheel driving before they get home and a RAM slot becomes loose in the process, but sometimes you don't have time to figure it out when you're on the road. So replacing that PC with another PC and then fixing that PC at your fix station or wherever you work on PCs is just a lot more comfortable and a lot more, efficient than fixing it at someone else's place. So that's one little thing that I did. And then also when I was up in Brisbane, I went and saw good old Les, and he had just a heap of monitors this time. And I was surprised because at the moment where I am, monitors are in extremely low supply. Everyone I'm talking to says they don't have monitors at the moment. And I'm like, well, Les had all these monitors. I'm like, sweet, like I'll take the lot. And so I cleaned him out of 22-inch monitors, mainly 22-inch. And one of the funniest things happened when I was at Les's place, and that was he had a 90mm stand in the last parts hunt. And then when I went up to his place yesterday, or if you guys want to be fancy and say yesterday, when I was up there, he had a 22-inch Samsung monitor, and it had the 90mm like indent bracket on it. And then I was like, dude, you had that 90mm stand in the last parts hunt that I did. And he's like, yeah, I had it, but I threw it out. And I'm like, scratching my head, I was like, dude, why'd you do that? He's like, I don't know, man. I had it sitting around, never came into a 90mm mount. And then it's funny because he chucked it out and then he got a 90mm mount monitor came in that actually needed that stand. And I know exactly how Les feels in this circumstance, because in the past I've had cooler brackets that have just been sitting around for years. You never use them and you're like, all right, it's time to clean out your place, chuck them all out. And then the next day you'll get a cooler in that needs that exact bracket. Or in a case of a power supply, like I'll have all these really weird modular power supply cables that I never use. And they're for, say, like some Superflower power supply. And I chucked out some of these power cables. And then like the next day, a Superflower power supply comes in. I'm like, I think in ways that relates back to Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, then it will go wrong. But I don't know how it ties in with Maybe there's a law out there that, hey, I had that thing 5 minutes ago and I just got really unlucky law. And now we've quickly whipped up a beautiful, beautiful little setup right here. Though here on in, I have to go fix up a PC for a separate job that's not related to gaming PCs. Then after that, I'm gonna go see a friend and see if I can pick up any graphics cards and see what the situation is on GPUs. Then we'll finally talk about the good old used market. So I just finished up now after checking out this PC problem where I've never seen a problem like this. It was basically when they went to make a new folder and then they made the name for that folder, the folder would then freeze and the whole system was running absolutely fine. You check the CPU performance, the memory tabs, and the GPU, all that is not even going anywhere near 100%. So you know the hardware is all running fine. It was just some weird error that ended up being in File Explorer where you had to take off quick access. So basically they must have used the PC for so long that that temporary bank must have run full and it must have then been some sort of like registry error. So the easy way to fix that was to clear all the quick access and then just turn it off, and that actually fixed their problems. So for me personally, that is one of the funnest things about going out and doing call outs, is that you get to experience all these new problems and then fix them. And I think it's one of those things that honestly, it just takes my mind off of all of the main stuff, and that's making videos for you guys. But just takes I don't want to make videos anymore. I love making videos for you guys, but the editing on those videos takes so long sometimes. You're spending hours and hours a day for me personally, in Premiere Pro, just constantly editing, and it does get very repetitive. I guess that's the worst part of doing YouTube, is editing the videos. And so it does get very repetitive and boring. So for me, doing something like a call out, getting out of the studio, it's just really good to have a breather. So let's get on to another question though, because coming back here, I got asked about RTX 3000, what do I think of it? And my answer in the prices video, when I made a video about the scalpers charging threefold the price, I sort of like, that opinion hasn't changed, right? I think it's a supply problem mainly here, where Nvidia, I think they should have just allowed the reviews to go up, but held back all the supply until they had that, supposedly this massive shipment coming in at the end of October. So I think if they held all the supply back till then, they wouldn't have had the problem that they had. And people are saying the scalpers and the bots, they're the guys who made this problem, and they only compounded the problem. Like if we put a supply and demand curve up, the supply was clearly nowhere near that demand curve on this release. And so basically the bots and the scalpers just really raise that demand curve. That's all they did. You still would have had people going on Twitter and getting angry at Nvidia if the scalpers and bots weren't there. And for me personally, this is the biggest take out of this whole situation. This has got to do with the PS5 as well. And I mean, you got to give it to Sony, right? They just said, look, Nvidia, we're going to take some of the heat off you and come in clutch here so we can get burned as well. So they came in and they had their own problems with all the pre-ordering and people reselling pre-orders on Sony PS5s. That's the exact same problem that is happening with the PS5 as is happening on the RTX 3000 series. Though what I really wanted to get at here was just take a step back and say to yourself, if the only problem in your life right now is the fact that you can't get an RTX 3080, then your life is really, and I mean this, it must be really fucking good. And I mean, guys, there are people out there in the world who have real problems. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was 8 years old, I remember there was this span in that year where we were like, damn, is there going to be a plate of food on the table tonight? And so you don't forget those kinds of things. You don't forget those times because they've happened. And so that's what you see what's going on here on the channel. If I'm doing bad, I'm really doing good. I'm always going to keep smiling and happy because I've got a place to stay. I've got a bed. I'm healthy. I got food on the table. So things are good in my corner of the world. And so that's never, as long as I've got a plate of food coming for the night, I'm gonna be happy. And so basically there's going to be no supply problems for RTX 3000 cards in a few months. You just have to wait. And so if you can't wait, then of course you can go out and you can get ripped off. That is up to you if you want to do it. But the problem would have still existed had there not been bots and scalpers. That's just my opinion. And I watch Review Tech USA Rich, and he's like, eBay have got to stop this. eBay have got to do something about it. And I don't think eBay have to do anything about it. eBay's just a marketplace, and they make a cut off whatever people sell. It's in eBay's best interest to allow people to sell stuff so they can make profit. And I mean, if you want to cut that off, then you're cutting off essentially what is known as a free market. And without a free market, believe me, you wouldn't even have an RTX 3000 to begin with. You wouldn't even have a PS5 in the pipeline. These products just wouldn't exist if there wasn't such thing as a free market. Anyways, there's my opinion on that one. We're going to talk about some used PC parts, the market, and what's going on right here. If you want to build a used PC in the next few months, it's going to be such a good time. Except for the GPUs. And this is the thing, the low-end GPUs, they're still overpriced. I look on Facebook, this guy's selling GTX 960s for 200 bucks Aussie. Like, what? I mean, there's an RX 570 brand new for $169. Why would I bother going to buy that used card when I can get something more powerful and better for cheaper? It just doesn't make any sense. So the used market for GPUs is still all over the place. I'm really hoping that Nvidia and AMD do bring out their lower entry cards as soon as possible so they can fix, which I believe is the biggest problem in the used PC market right now. But in terms of the rest of the parts in the builds, that's gonna get competitive. I mean, I already see guys dropping prices of builds. I'm dropping my prices of builds. Things are getting really competitive, and I like that because with competition brings innovation. So the content that's gonna be coming in the next few months, I feel is just gonna be really exciting. I'm gonna get back to that 2016, 2017 Tech Yes City, where we're gonna be mixing used and new. And it's just gonna be some of those past good times. They're gonna be coming back. I'm ready. I'm gonna bring the energy for you guys. And in the meantime, if you are doing it tough, if you can't make any money and you're just breaking even on your builds, then now's a better time than ever to just have a break and just relax a little bit. Hang up the boots for a couple of months, see how the market goes. Being patient is never a bad thing. Don't forget that. And with that aside, we got the question of the day here, which comes from Donnie, and they ask, what's the verdict on burn-in though? OLEDs have issues with it, and something like a gaming HUD might burn in on an OLED TV. And this has been a problem in the past, but I believe at least the LG OLEDs, the newer ones, have a thing called screen shift, and that stops them from getting burn-in. I believe some people have played games on these LG TVs a lot, and over like 5,000 hours, and they've suffered no burn-in. And you may notice in the background, we got the newest member of the family here. Here's the CX LG 55-inch OLED. That thing is absolutely amazing. If you get it with an RTX 3080, you're gonna get that 4K 120 Hertz. And OLED is just the best of all monitor technology out there. You really need it. Fast response times, the backlighting is beautiful for your eyes. And with that aside, guys, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.